Um, have you ever been in a relationship, maybe it's like a family member or maybe a really close friend, where you just constantly find yourself apologizing for things you didn't even do?
Oh, yeah. That is a very specific kind of nightmare.
Right. Like you go into a conversation fully expecting to clear the air. You're like, okay, we're going to talk this out. And somehow by the end of it, you feel completely silenced.
And heavy, usually, just weighed down.
Exactly. Weighed down by this immense, suffocating guilt simply because the other person has this uncanny ability to always play the victim card.
Yeah, it's a deeply draining kind of exhaustion. You walk into what should be just a normal, everyday back and forth, and suddenly you realize, wait, I'm not having a conversation at all here.
You're navigating a minefield.
Precisely. You are walking through this carefully laid minefield of their past grievances.
Mhm.
And if you step on even one, well, the whole relationship just blows up.
Yeah, and you end up feeling like you're constantly walking on eggshells, right? Like
So,
you're monitoring every single word so you don't accidentally trigger their trauma.
which is an impossible way to live.
It really is. So, today's deep dive is essentially your exit strategy. If you have ever felt trapped in that exact dynamic, this is for you.
We have some really fascinating source material to unpack today.
We do. We've gathered some brilliant psychological insights on what they call the weaponization of misfortune.
Hmm.
And our mission today isn't just to dissect why toxic people do what they do.
Right, because just analyzing them only gets you so far.
Exactly. We are going to radically reframe how you view your own reactions to this behavior. We're going to rewire how you think about your anger.
That's the key. Looking at why your anger isn't your enemy.
Yes. Why it's actually a vital survival instinct that's just trying to keep you safe.
To really understand why your brain and your body feel the need to protect you in those moments,
Mm.
we kind of have to pull back the curtain on the trap itself first.
Okay, let's do it.
So there's this fascinating concept in the psychology text we're looking at today. It's called the structure of domination.
Structure of domination. That sounds intense.
It is, and the word structure is the really important part there. I mean, we aren't talking about someone just having a bad day and lashing out at you.
Right, this isn't a one-off argument.
No, it is a systemic, conditioned way of controlling a relationship using one's own pain.
Okay, so let's break down the actual mechanics of that. How does a single guilt trip turn into an entire structure?
Well, it happens slowly.
Because on the surface, someone talking about their past trauma, it just seems like they're being vulnerable with you.
Right, and that's exactly why the trap works so well. It actively disguises manipulation as vulnerability. Let's look at how the conditioning actually happens over time.
Okay, paint a picture for us.
Imagine you bring up a totally standard relationship issue. Maybe you just feel like they aren't listening to you or they flaked on your plans.
Something mundane.
Exactly. But instead of addressing the issue, they immediately pivot. They say something like, well, I'm a child of a bitter divorce, or, I was always treated differently growing up.
Wow. Yeah. It's like they drop this heavy, highly personal, historical anvil right in the middle of a mundane disagreement about, like, being late to dinner.
That is the perfect way to describe it.
Uh,
And if we look at the function of that statement, because it is a mechanism, the moment they deploy that trauma, what happens to you?
you feel terrible.
Right. It immediately stimulates immense guilt. Your natural human empathy just kicks right in, and you back down.
You're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Never mind about the dinner.
Exactly. You apologize. You completely drop your issue. Now just repeat that process over months or even years. What ends up happening?
You stop bringing things up entirely.
Yes, it's classic operant conditioning. You eventually learn that bringing up your own needs leads to this grueling, guilt-ridden emotional punishment.
So it's safer to just stay quiet.
Exactly. They have successfully built a structure where they hold all the power
Mhm.
because you are quite literally no longer allowed to be upset.
Man, that makes me think of, okay, when someone has an immunity idol in a reality TV show?
Oh, like on Survivor.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like playing a trump card in a game. You could be arguing about something completely simple, like whose turn it is to take out the trash, and suddenly, boom, they play the trauma card.
Right.
Immunity idol played. Your argument is instantly invalidated, and you just have to fold. Because if you keep pushing about the trash, suddenly you are the monster attacking someone who's already suffered so much.
And that is such a brilliant way to visualize it.
Yeah.
But let's build on that reality TV analogy for a second.
Okay, sure.
Think about what actually happens when someone plays an immunity idol.
Yeah.
Yes, it saves them from being voted out that specific night.
Yeah.
It gets them out of the immediate hot water.
Right.
But what else does it do in the long run? It usually makes them a massive target for the next vote. It destroys the trust of everyone else in the game.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it burns bridges.
Exactly. They win the battle of that single argument,
Mm-hmm.
but they are slowly, methodically destroying the relationship for tomorrow.
Wait, hold on. This is where I'm really struggling to make sense of the psychology here.
Okay, what part?
If this person genuinely wants to be loved like, if they actually want to be treated as an equal and have a healthy relationship with you, why would they choose a strategy that makes you miserable?
It's a great question.
Like, why use the immunity idol if they know on some level it's gonna eventually alienate the exact person they're trying to keep close? It just makes zero logical sense.
You're totally right. It makes no logical sense at all. But it makes perfect emotional sense when you understand the paradox of this behavior.
What do you mean by that?
People who weaponize their misfortune, they aren't operating on logic. They are operating on this profound, deep-seated fear of rejection.
Okay.
They are absolutely terrified that if you see the real them, you will leave.
So they preemptively strike, like a defense mechanism.
It's more of an emotional test. When they play the victim card, they aren't actually looking for a healthy resolution to the argument about the trash.
Right, the trash doesn't even matter anymore.
Exactly. What they are seeking is constant, unwavering validation. They want to push you to your absolute limit to see if you will stay.
Wow, so they're testing your loyalty by treating you terribly.
Yes. They want you to essentially say, you were treated terribly in the past, and therefore I will always make allowances for you. I will never hold you accountable.
But the tragedy there is, by constantly testing the relationship to see if you'll stay, they create an environment so toxic that you eventually have to leave.
Exactly.
They provoke the exact rejection they're so terrified of.
Precisely. It is the ultimate self-destructive loop. They carry these really deep wounds into their adult relationships, and they demand that you pay the debt that someone else in their past accrued.
Which is so unfair.
It is. And here is the critical takeaway we have to internalize from the source text. Just because you can trace the origin of someone's pain, and just because you understand why they are hurting,
Right.
doesn't mean you have to be the sacrifice to it. You are not required to be the eternal victim of their victimhood.
Oh, that is powerful. You are not required to be the eternal victim of their victim.
It's a hard boundary to set, but a necessary one.
Which I think brings us to the natural consequence of being stuck in this loop. Let's talk about the person on the receiving end for a minute.
The one carrying all the guilt.
Yeah, because you're trapped every time you try to communicate. You get hit with the immunity idol. You're constantly guilted. You're silenced.
Yeah.
And naturally, what happens? You get mad. You get incredibly frustrated. But the moment you show that anger, society steps in and wags its finger at you.
Oh, absolutely.
We hear it all the time, right? Don't be angry. Anger is toxic. Be the bigger person.
And this brings us to one of the most profound paradigm shifts in this entire exploration. We have this massive, completely hypocritical societal double standard when it comes to emotion.
Tell me about it.
Think about it.
Yeah.
We are constantly told to manage our temper or to go to anger management.
Yeah.
But no one, literally no one, ever tells us to control our joy.
Whoa. Wait, let's just pause on that for a second because that is a wild observation.
It's true, isn't it?
It totally is. You never go to a party, laughing with your friends, having a great time, and someone taps you on the shoulder and says, "Excuse me, you need to rein in that happiness."
Right.
Like it getting out of hand. Have you considered joy management therapy?
Exactly. We never pathologize positive emotions.
Never.
So we have to ask ourselves,
Yeah.
why is anger treated so differently? Why is it immediately labeled a bad emotion?
Because it makes people uncomfortable.
Exactly that. It's not because anger is inherently evil. It's because anger causes social friction. It disrupts order. Society, workplaces, even our family units,
Yeah.
they all rely on smooth operations and polite compliance.
Yeah.
People getting angry makes things messy.
It requires other people to actually change their behavior.
Exactly. So we are conditioned from a very, very young age to suppress it. We are taught to view our own anger as a personal failing, like a lack of self-control.
I really want to push back on that societal norm, though, because it clearly values convenience over my emotional reality.
Right.
Like, let's look at this from an evolutionary standpoint. Human civilization and all these polite rules, things like keep your voice down in public or always respect your family no matter what.
Social contracts.
Right. Those concepts have only existed for a few tens of thousands of years. In the grand scheme of human biology, that is a blink of an eye.
It really is. It's a very recent operating system installed on very ancient hardware.
Yes, ancient hardware, exactly. So trying to suppress your anger when you are actively being emotionally manipulated, I mean, it feels so wrong.
It goes against her nature.
It feels like trying to domesticate a wild animal that is just trying to keep you alive. You know? You're trying to put a cute little bow tie on a guard dog that is actively barking because there is a literal intruder in the house.
I love that guard dog analogy so much. And the biological mechanisms from the source material, they back you up completely on this.
Really? How so?
Let's look at what's actually happening in your brain. Deep in your brain is the amygdala, which is basically your threat detection center.
The alarm system.
Right. And in the wild, self-defense isn't a matter of morality. The amygdala doesn't care if you're being a quote-unquote good person or a polite friend.
It just wants you to not die.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It only cares about survival. So when someone constantly chips away at your psychological well-being, when they trap you in a corner with this weaponized guilt,
Your brain reacts.
yes, your brain literally cannot tell the difference between an emotional threat and a literal physical predator.
So your body physically prepares for an attack.
Exactly. It reacts honestly. Your nervous system kicks into fight or flight. Cortisol just floods your
And
system.
blood pressure rises.
Right. You start losing sleep. Your overall immune health begins to deteriorate. The stress of this dynamic takes a very real, measurable physical toll on your organs.
Wow. So it's not just in your head.
Not at all. And when we understand that biological mechanism, it completely changes the narrative. Your anger isn't a character flaw. It is your mind and body's early warning system.
It's the guard dog.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is a sign that you still value yourself enough to want to survive.
The guard dog is barking because the house is on fire.
Right. And society's basically telling you to just put earplugs in and ignore the dog so you don't wake the neighbors.
That is so messed up.
It is. We have to stop asking the question, how do I suppress this anger?
Mhm.
And we need to start asking, why am I this angry? What is this anger trying to protect me from?
Okay, this is a massive realization, but I feel like it leads us to the hardest part of this whole deep dive.
The application part.
Right, because if we accept that our anger is this valid alarm bell, what action do we actually take? Because understanding the psychology is one thing, but dealing with it in the real world, on a Tuesday afternoon, that's another.
It is much harder in practice, yes.
How do you escape this trap without feeling like you are an absolute monster, especially if the person playing the victim is someone you really care about, like a parent or a best friend?
Yeah, this is where we run into a concept from the text that is going to sound very intense at first.
Okay, brace me.
When exploring how to break this cycle, the psychological framework points toward having the courage to let the relationship go. And to illustrate this, the source references a Japanese folkloric term called ubasutiyama.
Hold on. Let me stop you right there. Because I know what that term means, and it is incredibly heavy.
It is a dark piece of folklore, yes.
Yeah, the literal translation of ubasutiyama refers to this ancient dark folklore about carrying elderly relatives up to a mountain and abandoning them there to die during times of famine.
Right.
So if I'm listening to this and I'm dealing with like a passive-aggressive mother-in-law or a really needy friend, telling me to leave them on a mountain sounds like a massive overreaction.
It sounds horrifying, frankly.
It sounds downright cruel.
Right.
How do we bridge the gap between ancient folklore about abandonment and just setting a healthy boundary?
That is a completely fair reaction,
Yeah.
and it's crucial to clarify right now that we are absolutely not talking about literal abandonment or cruelty.
Okay, good.
The framework uses the extremity of that folklore as a metaphor for a very specific psychological state. It's about allowing someone to experience true aloneness.
True aloneness. What does that actually look like in practice?
Well, think about the structure of domination we talked about earlier. When someone is constantly weaponizing their pain, they're operating under a core premise.
Which is what?
The premise that no matter how terribly they treat you, no matter how much guilt they dump on you, you will always be there to absorb it.
You're their emotional dumping ground.
Exactly. You are their shock absorber.
Hmm.
So ubasutiyama, in this modern psychological sense, means removing that shock absorber. It means stepping back and letting that premise collapse.
So it's not about punishing them, it's just about refusing to play the game anymore.
Yes.
Give me a hypothetical of what that looks like in real life.
Okay, imagine you're at a family dinner, like Thanksgiving.
Sure.
The toxic relative starts their usual routine. They drop the trauma anvil, expecting everyone to rush in, apologize, and cater to their emotions.
Right, the usual script.
True aloneness means instead of jumping into the trap, you just politely say, "I'm sorry you feel that way," and you change the subject.
Oh, wow.
Or you physically leave the room. The safety net is just gone.
So they throw the immunity idol and you just shrug and say, okay, anyway, pass the potatoes.
Exactly. And when you do that, the person finally feels the weight of what they've lost. They experience the reality of their own actions.
Because no one is cushioning the blow for them anymore.
Right. And the psychological research shows that this feeling of consequence is a lesson that words could never teach them.
That makes a lot of sense.
You can't logic someone out of a behavior they use for emotional survival. You can't just explain to them how their behavior hurts. They have to actually feel the absence of your presence to understand it.
I hear that, and logically the mechanism makes total sense. But let's talk about the emotional reality of the listener right now.
The guilt.
The immense guilt. What if it is family? What if it's someone who is genuinely struggling with real trauma?
It's incredibly painful.
The guilt of stepping back, of quote-unquote abandoning them to face their own consequences, it feels completely insurmountable. Isn't walking away just running from the problem?
It feels like it.
Like, isn't it a failure of empathy on our part?
That guilt you're describing right now is the exact mechanism that society and the toxic person rely on to keep you in line.
Wow.
But we have to make a very sharp, very difficult distinction here to dismantle that guilt. There is a fundamental difference between genuinely caring for someone and enabling their toxic behavior.
Empathy versus enabling.
Yes. They are not the same thing.
Ah.
If a relationship is making your entire environment unhealthy, if your amygdala is constantly firing, if your blood pressure is skyrocketing and you are losing sleep injury, that is not kindness.
It's martyrdom.
Exactly. Staying in the room to be their emotional punching bag doesn't actually heal their past wounds. It just creates new ones for you.
It doesn't fix them.
Not at all. Cutting ties, or even just distancing yourself significantly, is an act of profound honesty.
It's being honest with yourself and honest with them about what the relationship has actually become. You're just refusing to participate in the illusion that everything is fine.
Precisely. And this is a really tough pill to swallow, but it might be the most important thing we discuss today.
What's that?
Ultimately, the consequences of their self-destructive behavior belong to them. They do not belong to you.
Wow.
You are not responsible for catching them every single time they intentionally jump off an emotional cliff just to see if you're watching.
That is, the consequences of their behavior belong to them. That is such a liberating concept.
It really is.
It's like we've been walking around carrying this incredibly heavy backpack full of rocks that someone else forced us to wear. And we genuinely think we're being good people by carrying it for them.
Because that's what we're taught a good friend or family member does.
Right. But this entire exploration is basically giving us permission to just take the backpack off and set it on the floor.
And, setting it down isn't a malicious act. You aren't throwing the rocks at them.
No.
You are just refusing to carry them. In many ways, it's the most authentic thing you can do for both of you. You stop pretending everything is okay, and you give them the dignity of facing their own reality.
This has been a massive paradigm shift. Let's bring all these threads together. Over the course of this deep dive, we've really gone on quite a journey.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did. We started by looking at the mechanics, right? Learning how to spot the weaponization of misfortune. We explored how people use operant conditioning and play that trauma immunity idol to control the narrative, test your loyalty, and silence you.
And then we completely reframed the emotional fallout.
Right.
We've taken anger out of that toxic flaw category that society tries to cram it into, and we put it right back where it belongs biologically.
We see it as a vital survival instinct now. Your anger is a guard dog that barks when your boundaries are being violated, and it's just trying to save you from real physical stress.
Yeah. And finally, we tackled the really hard stuff. The guilt.
We broke down the immense guilt of walking away. We discovered that setting boundaries, removing that shock absorber, and letting someone...
Yes. Are they functioning as these highly evolved warning systems, just trying to save our lives in ways we haven't even recognized yet, simply because someone told us it wasn't polite to feel them?
Wow, that is something to really chew on. If you are out there listening right now feeling guilty for feeling bad, maybe your body is just trying to tell you something you desperately need to hear.
Trust the alarm.
Yes, trust the alarm. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. As you go through your week, try to listen to that guard dog. Trust your instincts, honor your anger, and remember that you are never required to stay in a room where you are constantly being forced to walk on eggshells. Take care of yourselves.